Hey everybody, it's Nomad with Nomad's Adventures. Today I've got something very special for y'all. Today is a tribute to my grandfather. So we're going to be shooting his Thompson Center 50 cal Hawken that he put together from a kit back in the 70s. It is unloaded at the moment. A couple little things. Today's going to be more like a Hickok 45 style, just chatting with y'all and shooting a little bit. And there's only going to be a couple of little slow-mos in between. One little tip that I recommend is you can take a little, an old 22 casing, 22 short, whatever, and put over the nipple, especially on like a rainy day when you're just tracking around. It's a good way to, keep your primer protected, keep the rain coming off of it, especially when you keep the barrel down. Anyway, you do have to watch out though, because if they're not cleaned out, they will corrode. They have some, from the primer, they will corrode. Just FYI. But today, while I'm loading this thing up and talking with y'all, all we're going to do is just reminisce about my grandfather. So let's look at this rifle together, shall we? My granddaddy had a friend of his that he used to work with that hand engraved all the brass. Now I'll roll some better pictures of that in. These Hawkins, most of the brass is just raw, but my granddaddy's friend hand engraved all that. And my grandfather, Old English blued the barrel. He did some work across the top so that it reduces the glare, just some hand stippling in a sense. But this is a beautiful piece. This is probably my favorite. This is absolutely my favorite firearm.
Mississippi opened up the first muzzleloading system. I forgot which year it was. Deer hunting with a muzzleloader. I chose to buy a kit and build a kit to muzzleload with. And this is the first kit I built. I was working at Guff Plastics, and the man I was working with that helped train me in some hand tool work was a master engraver, and he said, "Give me the brass off of it, Billy, and I'll take it home and engrave it for you." So I built it, and Miss Jack engraved the brass and put it back together, and I have killed several deer with this rifle. And I'm giving it to Quentin because he's a special person to me.
Can I see your name right there?
And I want him to keep it in the family. And
tell me about your first deer you killed with it, Papaw. You mind telling me the first deer story?
Huh?
You mind telling me about your first deer you killed with it?
I've killed 2 or 3 ones. I don't really remember perfectly. I've killed several deer with this rifle. Because at close range, at 50 caliber, we'll kill one quick.
What we're going to be loading it with today is 100 grains of Pyrodex. That's what we're using to load with. So I got these little pre-measured little cups. Love these things, especially for hunting. You put the shot on one side, or whatever you end up using as your shot. It's already pre-measured at 100 grains. So do nothing more than dump that in there, and always give it a little shake. Make sure it goes into the nipple good. So anyway, who is my granddaddy and why is he so special? Well, number one, he's my granddaddy. That's probably self-explanatory. I'm going to try to do this while talking with y'all at the same time. Let me reach down so I don't drop the rifle. My grandfather is just, he's just a special dude to me. He's the reason I love hunting as much as I do, love the outdoors the way I do. He was a veteran, just all-around good guy, master machinist, and as y'all have seen by some of the firearms he's made, he was incredible with the work that he could do. He's just an absolute amazing man when it comes to doing that kind of stuff. He was funny. He could tell stories better than just about anybody. He'd give Jerry Clyer a run for his money for sure. Anytime I'm ever doing this, even though there's no primer on it, I always point it away from my face just in case it decides to blow out the top. It's already pre-marked so that I know when I get it all the way down. Since we're going to be doing that again, I'll just leave that right there. And let's shoot this thing a little bit, shall we? And I'll tell y'all a couple of stories about my grandfather. One of the funniest stories about him is that my cousin and I were hunting with him one time. Before I shoot this, I'm going to check the camera, make sure it's still filming. Yeah, it's cold outside today for South Mississippi, so my batteries are dying. Anyway, y'all look over there. We got a couple of nice targets to shoot at. Got some water and all that. Let's start off with that bag of water right there. Hopefully I'm not in the frame. Woo! So this is why we're putting this thing on Thumper Thursday. That 50 cal puts an old gollywop on something for sure. Papaw gave me this thing last year, and it was really awesome because I was bound and determined I was going to hunt with that thing until I killed something, and this is what I got. This young deer here weighed about 150 pounds, a little over 12-inch spread on the inside. For these pine cone fed deer we have in South Mississippi, that's a trophy by any right. That's a good deer, you know, anywhere, really anywhere. But for, you know, the pine forest of Mississippi, that was a quality deer. He's got great character. But I showed a picture of that after I'd gotten him, and my grandfather was absolutely thrilled. I mean, he was. I don't think he'd have been happier if he'd have killed it himself, you know. But just. Man, this thing is just, it's a dream to shoot. I've had to learn a lot. It's my first black powder gun I've ever had. I've just had to learn a lot over the years with shooting it. And just thankful for it, for sure. Anyway, my grandfather was hilarious also. I mean, he told a story once. He shot and killed a three-legged deer, which is true. Oh, man, I knocked out about 5 grains. Oh well. He killed a deer a few years ago. My cousin and I were hunting with him, and we got back to the camp, my cousin and I, and he said, "Hey, I killed one." We're like, "Oh no!" We thought he was messing with us because Papaw was known to joke around. And sorry, I'm not nearly as good at Hickok 45, Mr. Hickok. I give you a lot of credit, sir. Talking while doing anything is very, very difficult. So I don't know how you keep a train of thought while you do it. So very impressed with your ability to do that. So we went out to the food plot, and sure enough, there's a big old deer laying in the middle of the food plot. And I told my cousin, "Hey, grab his legs." And I reached down and grabbed his back legs. My cousin said, "I can't." I said, "Well, why not?" He said, "He's only got 3 legs." I'm like, seriously? So I'll roll the picture in right here. Anyway, my grandfather took that and used that as an opportunity to tell the most outlandish story I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it's such a good story that even he's telling me that he made this story up on the spot, and I'm nearly believing it, knowing the backstory to it, which is absolutely hilarious. Before we do anything else, though, let's put a shot. Got us a can of blue paint hanging up down there. Let's give this a whop. I love the smoke, man. That was pretty entertaining. So anyway, while my granddad was going through the VA, again, he was a veteran. He was a Marine. Was in the Korean War, and was actually, he never saw any combat, but he was a mail guy. He delivered the mail, which is, well, he's a mailman. Anyway, I gotta measure out a little bit of shot, a little bit of powder. So anyway, I was asking him, like, what was he talking about? He made this story up. And while he was at the VA, the nurse was talking with him, and he made this story up on the spot. The nurse basically just pleasantries, "How you doing, sir?" and all this kind of stuff. He'd had a good year. He killed him a deer the weekend before, and, "Oh, that's great, Mr. Fault. You know, how was that? You know, I'm so glad to hear that. Tell me about it." He goes, "Well, I was part of a pilot program for the state of Mississippi. They've started taking," this is him telling now, you know, Mississippi started a pilot program where they would take disabled and elderly and put them on a disabled or elderly deer." And again, making this up on the spot. He said, "Well, so what the state would do is they would find these deer that had, you know, gotten old up in age or whatever, and they would capture them and tag them, or either deer that were that had gotten hit by a car and injured, and they'd take those deer and they'd capture them." Hope I don't get any blue paint on me. Come on. These little sabots can make these things be real difficult to get started. And so she's buying this hook, line, and sinker. And he said, well, yeah, so since it's a pilot program and I'm a veteran myself, they thought I'd be a perfect fit for this pilot program. So they put me on this deer that had gotten hit a couple of years ago by a car and lost his leg. So they told me where to go because they had him radio collared and tracked. And I went out there, and sure enough, they put me right on him, which was pretty awesome. And I was able to get this three-legged deer. I mean, this lady's buying this hook, line, and sinker. And he said they hadn't come up with a name for the program yet, but they're calling it Disabled for the Disabled is what they're leaning towards. So my grandfather's telling me this, and I could see this nurse just buying this hook, line, and sinker. My grandfather, again, just a hilarious guy. Let's shoot that cinder block there, see what kind of damage it'll do. That'll do. It's got a nice little peep sight on it for the aperture. You just look through and you can adjust it and on. You got the round down at the far end, but this is just a piece of work, man. I love this rifle. So I miss my granddaddy a lot already. He passed away last month, back in 2020, in December. And I was fortunate as a man to know my grandfather. You know, a lot of boys spend time with their granddaddies when they're kids, but I mean, I knew my granddaddy as a man and spent more time with him as growing up than I did growing up. Spent more time with him as a grown up, and I miss him terribly. He taught me a lot. He gave me a love for the outdoors that I'm grateful for. He gave me a love for firearms that I'm grateful for. I mean, he's got, you know, being a master machinist, the science that goes into these things, he's taught me to love, and I'm passing that legacy on to y'all, to my girls. I mean, it's a special thing. I mean, this is a family tradition for me. This is more than just a hobby. This is a piece of my history, you know. And even those ARs that I put together, or any of the pistols that I have, or whatever. I mean, this is something that I think part of our population doesn't understand, that this isn't just, you know, a hobby. This is a way of life in a lot of ways for a guy like me. But it's a lot of fun for sure, and it's definitely something to be respected. But I mean, my grandfather and I spent more time, most of my memories, and I say most of my memories are spent with my grandfather, and there was a gun within 10 feet of us. And it's because we were in the woods hunting, or he was teaching me something about these things. He's the one that gave me all the reload and stuff, you know, and I'm ever grateful for that. So this Thumper Thursday, again, it's a little bit different than some of the ones that we've done in the past, and I just wanted to tell y'all about the man who implanted in my heart a love for the science and the fun that firearms brings. A man who fostered in me a love for the outdoors and for being a true conservative, and that I want things to be around for my children. And that's what the idea of conservative really is, you know, beyond the political aspect, is to conserve what we have. And I want to see that happen for my girls, my children that I hope to have, and for y'all. But thank y'all for joining me on this short little adventure. I'm Nomad. I'll see y'all on the next one. I think I might shoot one more time just for kicks and giggles, just because I enjoy this so much. And YouTube, just FYI, according to the NFA, this is not a firearm, so I'm not showing anybody how to load, unload, or whatever. I'm just a guy on the YouTube putting together a gun. All right, let's hit that piece of steel there. Let's go for that 8-inch. Actually, let's see if we can put it right in the middle of that big one. I want to watch it dance. All right. This is a double barrel muzzle loader my grandfather made. It's a beautiful piece of work. He did all the bluing himself. So I'm going to attempt with a kit that he gave me, a 32 caliber one, to mimic some of this.